Today we look at chapters 15 and 16 of 2 Kings. And when I first started, it said reconnecting, and I thought, uh-oh. But hopefully we'll be okay for signal this morning. Chapter 15 begins with the reign of King Amaziah of Judah. He reigns 52 years, and he's also referred to as Uzziah a couple different times. But he was 16 when he started reigning and reigned for 52 years. And this is in Judah, the southern kingdom. And he was faithful to what God had wanted, and he was as his father had done, he did right in the sight of the Lord. However, it says, nevertheless, in verse 4, the high places were not taken away, and people still sacrificed to idols and false gods and did those kinds of things that way that, of course, God wasn't pleased about. And because of that, because he didn't tear down those false places of worship, the poles and all of those things, he was struck, it says, with leprosy. And he lived apart, in a separate house, not in the palace. So his son, Jotham, was in the palace and more or less did a lot of the governing of the people and especially of the running of the household. And then with his being 52 years, in the 38th year that he's king, Azariah of Judah, this is 38 years of Azariah of Judah, Zechariah, son of Jeroboam, had reigns in Samaria for 6 months. And then there's a coup, one of his, he was a sinful leader causing Israel to sin, and Shalom, son of Jabesh, conspired against him and struck him and killed him. And then, of course, we hear, the rest of the deeds of this king are in the, and probably weren't a whole lot in 6 months' time, but, they would be in the annals of the king of Israel. And then Shalom begins to reign in this 39th year of, and here it says King Uzziah rather than Amaziah. In the 39th year, he reigned for 1 month. Here we had 6 months, and then we have 1 month. And then, you can't get anything accomplished, and it's just utterly chaos with short situations like that. But, Menahem, the son of Gad, he came and struck down Shalom, and he reigned. And, of course, then Shalom, his deeds are in the annals of the king of Israel again. And then so this Menahem begins to reign, and his reign lasts for 10 years. Although, again, he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, led the people astray and all of that. And the King Pul of Assyria came during that time, and Menahem presented to him much of the silver and everything to basically to pay him to help him stay in power, and a treaty of some sort anyway. And then verse 23 of chapter 15, in the 50th year of King Azariah, Pekahiah, son of Menahem, began to reign after Menahem, this one who reigned 10 years, died. So his son takes over. And now this is the 50th year of Azariah or Uzziah, whichever. And of course, again, it's just he did evil in the sight of the Lord. And if you're like I am, you get really tired of reading that. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. And, which turned the sins of Jeroboam away. He caused Israel to sin. And then Pekah, the son of Remiah, his captain, conspired against him with 50 people, attacked him and killed him. And then he took over the position of king. So another coup happens in Israel, the northern kingdom, the larger part of the land of the promised land of the Israelites. And then in verse 27, the 52nd year of King Azariah or Uzziah, as this Pekah began to reign, doing evil in the sight of the Lord, he did not depart from the sins again. It's just it's just that downward spiral that, it's been going on ever since way back in, halfway through First Kings when everything started that way. And then in the days of, he reigned for 20 years. So, I mean, he protected himself well enough so that there wasn't another coup, I mean, there was way too many of those going on. And then there was another conspiracy in verse 30 of chapter 15 that Hosea, son of Elah, made a conspiracy against Pekah, attacked him and killed him, after he'd reigned 20 years. And so again, I mean, there was the coup, but at least there was 20 years in there, and it wasn't a peaceful reign, peaceful time either. There was wars and lands being lost and people being captured and taken away. And, it just, it never got better for the people of Israel. And the people of Judah were faring a little bit better because their king was following God. But in the second year of King Pekah, Jotham, the son of Uzziah of Judah, began to reign. So Uzziah died from the southern kingdom, Judah, and his son begins to reign. He was 25 when he began. He reigned for 16 years. And, Azariah, the former king, had been 16. He ruled for 52. And his son is 25, so a little bit older when he starts, but, a shorter time, 16 years. And a lot of times I appreciate they identify the mother of the king, So, he was his mother's name was Jerusha, daughter of Zadok. And again, he did what was right in the sight of the Lord. And as much as, he did evil in the sight of the Lord is an irritation, he did right in the sight of the Lord is commendation and is good things that happen. Nevertheless, he did not take down the high places of worship or these idol places of worship or the false altars. They were still there and people were still going out and worshiping and offering sacrifices as they should not be doing. But yet, in spite of that, they were following God in many more ways than they weren't. Then in the 17th year of Pekah, this one of Israel, and this is, keeping track of all this, it just baffles my mind. But King Ahaz's son begins to reign. And, this, the one that he was there for 16 years, Jotham, Pekah was there for 20, so there was an overlap of Pekah in Israel longer than Jotham was in Judah, but then Ahaz, the son of Jotham, begins to reign. So we have, the kingdom, the Azariah, then Jotham, and then now Ahaz, father or grandfather, and father and son, the worship order, the lineage, the heritage follows down that way. Although, this was not a good one, because here we find this king of Judah, the country that had been more faithful, he does evil in the sight of the Lord. And he made his sons to pass through the fire. And, he followed more of the examples of the kings of Israel. And he worshiped on the idols and all of that. And then this King Rezin of Aram and the King Pekah of Israel come together against Judah. And they are somewhat successful, although they're not completely successful. And there's just, more intrigue and everything going on here. And verse 10, when King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet King Tiglath of Assyria, he saw the altar that was there, and then he says, I need to have an altar just like that back home. And, it says that he sent to the priest Uriah a model of the altar. It'd be so much easier if he just had a cell phone, he could take a picture, right, and send it, but of course they didn't have that. But, So there, the altar that was there was intriguing to this other foreign king, and he has an altar built at home. And, it just, more goes on. The bronze altar that was before the Lord was removed from the front of the house. And then, so the altar of God was moved and put alongside this altar for this false god. And, the decline and everything is just, it's heartbreaking for me to read it. Think about how that would feel to God to see the way that God's chosen people are living. And I think about that too. I mean, aren't we God's chosen people as well? And how are we living today?